Comrades, welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. I am Admiral Andre, and today I'm going back to using Audacity for recording my audio because the issue in the last episode, of course, was that the launch sounds was way too loud, so we won't have that problem again. So live and learn, I guess. Now, I think the first thing that I want us to do is to just set up some clocks here for intercept points. Let's just have a look, or intercept windows for various planets, because we have to plan these things out for the future. There's nothing I want to do with other planets today. It's just again so we can see what's coming up. So of course the origin is Kerbal, so Moho is actually in 76 days, but I don't think we are going to go there anytime soon. Eve is 1 year and 50 days. That will be another target for us at some point. And of course Duna. So let's just set another one here. So that is the next one that will happen. Actually, I could just be using the transfer window planner. I think this is maybe a better idea. It gives us some more accurate information. So plot this one and then put that into the alarm. But now I need to know which one is which. Let's start over. Okay, just so we can really optimize this process. So Duna, just get the same thing done for that. Plot. And I think this is a bit longer than the previous alarm. Yes, it's a few days longer or later, but that's fine. At least now we know when the optimum time will happen, because if we look back at the episode of Venera, we had an issue there with the inclination change to get to Eve, and it ended up being a bit more troublesome than I expected, and I'm hoping that the window planner here, or transfer window planner, will actually account for that. That's why it has this optimum area. So, today's episode, the first thing of course we have to do is launch the Ranger 4 to Minmus. So, let's load it up. I've gone ahead and made some other craft in the meantime as well, like Luna 9, but this is for much later of course. Let's just load up the Ranger. Is that the complete one? Yes, okay, this is it. Now, we had a lot of trouble with this craft in the last episode because it's not very maneuverable. I want to add a bit more monopropellant, I think. And also we have to make sure that the thrust limiters here are set higher than they were before. So let's try and get it the same. Although again, this is not really necessary. It just bothers me when they aren't exactly matched. So let's try for 50. There, okay. So obviously the other side will have the same level. Okay, so I think really that is the only thing I want to do here. We will have a much easier time in this episode because we aren't trying to really reach the far side of Minmus, because it revolves relative to Kerbal, so it never has just one face pointing to the planet, and therefore we can just go for a sort of general impactor. I think we have done an impactor on Minmus before, but this will give us a lot more data. There is one more thing, and I said also before, I don't really want to use parts mods, but I have gone ahead. I guess in a sense we can look at this series like the sort of typical experience of a Kerbal Space Program player. You start out with a stock game, and then you add eventually some of these basic mods. Then you start to add some of the visual mods, and then you start to add some of the parts mods. So it's almost like an evolution there. But I'm keeping the parts as they are. The only addition is the, I think, what is this, the VDS or something mod with the hull cameras here, just so that we can get some images from the various bodies that we will still visit in the series, which will be all of them eventually. So I think this will add a bit of ambiance to the whole series. Now, of course, at this point we have imagined that there are cameras on here, and that is certainly a valid thing, but I want to actually see the the pictures and share them with you. That adds so much more to the immersion. So this is it, I think. I don't see myself adding any more mods soon. Certainly one could argue something for the various life support mods, but I think that will add a bit too much complexity for what I have in mind. So I'm still a relatively casual player. So let's have a look. What do we want here? This is the early days, so we have to go for a really rubbish camera, to put it plainly. Now the nav cam here I think is fitting the bill. This is a black and white camera, and its picture quality isn't great, but it's a lightweight camera for essentially rovers and probes. This is after all a probe. There's another one, the Kerbal 500, which is also a black and white camera, so another of the early version cameras, but this one you can see costs 90, so it's a little bit better than the nav cam. Now I think, let's have a look, where would we put this thing? Well, we want to impact with the bottom here. This is after all the panels and all of that, they have to point towards the body that we're trying to hit, because the antenna points back to Kerbal. So I think we'll just throw the thing on here. We don't have to be too finicky about it. This will give us some nice pictures, and I might even be able to use them for the thumbnail. That will be exciting. So let's see here. I can actually put this on an action group. We are not using any for this mission. Activate camera. Deactivate is backspace, so that won't be a problem. And of course we can zoom with the mouse wheel. So that's all I want, so I don't have to go and look for the thing to activate it. Then I think everything else is the same. There should be no need to change anything else. We will have enough delta V to reach Minmus. So for this one I'm going to do again what I did before with the older episodes and put some music on and fast forward a bit until we are on our Minmus trajectory. Just because we've seen this before. We've launched this exact same craft. So I can just speed that part up. So, see you out there, and then I'll speak again once we are on our way to Minmus. Let's hope it goes well at any rate. Okay, comrades, I'm just jumping back in here because we have to fast forward a bit for Minmus to move into position between Kerbal and the Sun, or Kerbal. So yes, you saw probably there that our ascent was not the best actually. There was a lot of heating on the way up, but we survived thanks to the fairing, of course. So I thought it was going really well until the end when it started to heat up quite a lot. But hey, it's fine, we survived. So let's fast forward time again and do the burn. Okay, this will be fine, I think. It was interesting to see our two Ranger 4s get flung out into interplanetary space, so they will be wandering this orbit for a long time until they probably either impact Kerbal or get flung out even further. At any rate, I think we're ready, so I'll skip ahead again until the burn is complete. Let's hope the craft is still working and that the solar panels were pointing the right way. Although I don't think it uses power when it's or at least when we're not controlling it directly. Okay, we're out of fuel and we didn't quite make the burn yet. So, well, lesson for the future, we don't exactly have enough. Hopefully we can still make the correction. That's why I locked this thing out, so it was definitely not using anything here. So let's see if we just separate. Of course, that will give us another bit of a boost here. Now, where are we? Oh, still a long way to go, unfortunately. Okay, let's activate the RCS here and see if we can just get the thing in the right orientation. Of course, I have to let the thing work now. And it's burning there already, so it's not an issue. Let's just see if it's going to be enough. Unfortunately, again, the RCS is trying to stabilize the craft while we're burning, which is not an efficient thing. Okay, that should be able to maintain the pro grade. Oh yes, I think we'll be fine. Just turn off stage view. We should have enough. We still have to make a minor correction on the way there because of the inclination not being optimal. But at the rate we're using RCS now, or monopropellant, I think it will not be an issue. So soon we'll be able to have a look at what the camera can see here. It's just going to be looking out into space at the moment, but as we head towards Minmus, of course the added benefit of having the sun behind Minmus will mean that the planet will be illuminated very nicely, so we'll be able to see what this camera can do. So how much further? Of course, the longer the orbit gets, the more efficient it is to burn at the periapsis, so we are getting more efficient as we go. Or at least our monopropellant is translating into more distance. So I just want to more or less match the orbit there. The inclination change will be extremely cheap. And that should do. Okay. And we still have quite a lot of fuel left. Now we don't need to use the stability anymore, so I'm going to fast forward so that won't use it up. Although we still need to worry about power. Let's go a bit further until the power starts getting low. Then I can just get some pictures here and then we'll swap it around and point towards Minmus. So the power does last a while. I think at this point we should have some nice images. So okay, no, stop this. Of course I should not have had it trying to match prograde anymore. Just point straight away from the planet. That will be fine. Okay, no more SAS, just show me the camera. there is our world. Well, we pretend this is of course our world. Let's zoom in a bit. Now we can't see much. That's the point of this rubbish camera here. But we can clearly see, you know, the weather and all of that, some of the terrain features. This is really nice. That's why I thought this would be a worthwhile mod to add to the game without trying to really change the character of it still being a stock game. So with that, we can just really appreciate this. I'm gonna F1 this one, just save that. And I think now we've seen pretty much as we can here. So let's exit now, backspace. Then, of course, it changes the camera as well. Locked, just auto again. Now we need to point towards the target. Do we have it selected? No, of course it doesn't matter. We still have to make the change. I just want us pointing towards the sun now. Other way. And that will do. Of course, now our antenna is positioned nicely, so we're beaming back these pictures. And let's continue. I think we can even plan the next maneuver. We just have to drop the orbit slightly, and we have an encounter. We could even try and plan an impact from here. Of course, we don't know where we're going to land or hit the surface more accurately, but that's fine. We're not doing controlled descents after all. So let's just see if we can bring this closer. And a little more. Okay, that's an impact. But, maybe we should try and get it to the other side like this. Then we can hit the surface where there's actually sunlight. Of course, we still will have the trouble of possibly cutting off communication right before impact, but that's not a problem. Now, how do I get this thing back? Okay, that's it. 6 kilometers. We can make additional changes. Let's just point this thing in the right direction. Make sure we're not cutting the solar panels off, which we are. But here I'm going to say hibernate. Auto. Hibernation is on, but no, not yet. Only in warp. So are we using power? Let's have a look. Very little, not really. So I think we just have to keep an eye on that, if this is working correctly. That's fine, not a problem. Of course, we don't have to be very precise with this burn. Just like that. Stop. And go back out. Let's have a closer look at it and just burn not too much, because it still has to fight the imbalance in the mass here. I think that's our target right there. I do have the distant object, so we can see Eve is just behind Minmus there. Okay, I have to intervene a little bit here to make sure it doesn't stray too far. Not the ideal design, I'll admit that. There's a bit of trouble with this craft, as we've seen from our various failures or near failures. I still count the last one as a success. Are we still going in the right direction though? Yes, it looks like we are. Of course, we're straying a bit now. Come on. Okay, stop. Of course, I have to keep tracking, and as I rotate, the target keeps moving. Okay, that's good enough. Let's make the final correction a bit closer. So, are we okay with power? I think we should be. We can just go back to the craft and time warp until almost in the sphere of influence. I have a good connection back home and good power as well. Now let's see, where are we going to end up? I think it might just be easier to time warp into the sphere of influence. we should still have a long time before impact, so we can make very efficient changes. Now it's going to be one of the radial buttons here, so I think let's try this one. That's the right one. We want an impact now. I'm not going to be too finicky about this. How much fuel? Still enough, still enough. And I think we're almost there. That's it, stop. Okay, we have our guaranteed impact, and we can still beam back pictures before we actually hit the ground. So with that in mind, let's actually point the camera towards the ground. We should still get solar power. Yes, it's not going to be very efficient, but it will work. So yes, speaking of launches and all this space stuff, I was watching the live stream of the SpaceX Falcon Heavy launch yesterday, and very interesting, of course, a wonderful success in terms of the side boosters and the payload, but seems like the center or the core stage misbehaved a bit. I was watching it with a friend of mine actually in Norway, and we were, chatting about this as we watched it, and both of us were quite perplexed at what happened with the center stage, and you could see they knew already when they cut off the live stream. Their reactions could tell you everything. We actually thought for a while that the payload was also a failure, but it seems to have worked. We've seen the pictures now, which is a great thing, of course. So there's a roadster and a starman heading out into space. What a time to be alive. So when do we lose communication? Still quite a while. I think let's try and get some pictures. Of course I have the high resolution textures here, so it should help us a bit to see something nice. Okay, just keep it there. And let's have a look. So there she is. Of course we've seen Minmus before, and back there it's the moon. But now we really get to see the actual perspective of a camera here that's actually on its way to impact. So we can very clearly, this is an interesting exercise actually, even though I assume most people watching this will also be sort of lay people in terms of the whole picture analysis and the science behind this. But we can now actually, just as casual players, try and figure out what we would make out of this image. Of course, it's not the best image, but we work with what we can. So based on this body, we can see very uneven terrain. So we have some high-lying areas, and this does seem to be, I'm disliking this rotation a little bit, so let's just fast forward. We can see like plateau areas, very clearly defined actually, very distinct edges to them. Then, of course, rolling hills and various terrain changes. Actually, the shadows here tell us a great deal. Then we have this flat area, which actually looks like an ocean, to be honest. If we didn't know it was not liquid, then we would possibly deduce or argue that it was liquid. So, yes, what else can we see here? We can also, of course, see this is a very small body because of the drastic terrain changes here. This is almost like an asteroid, really. But very interesting. Lots of varied terrain. So, yes, it's an interesting exercise. So let's go and just speed up a bit until we get even closer. Maybe we get a nice image of this actual flat area where we might want to put a base one day, or at least do a soft landing. Now my view is messed up again. Alright, we still have communication, but we will be losing it soon. So this is technically a far side impact. At last, comrades, at last we can claim success. Okay, never mind that. Let's just go in before we lose the signal, and I'm going to take this for the screenshot there, F12. I can just do an F1 as well. So there we now get a nice clear image of this sort of flat area. Let's see if we can rotate. Now that is a nice image there. Speed it up a little to stabilize, and I think we can take this for the screenshot actually. So very clearly the mountainous area, the valleys, the flat area which we can see really does fit the profile of a liquid ocean because it doesn't have any variation in terrain. Okay, well, I think we can exit out of this. And now we just have to wait for impact. We've lost communication now, so that was the last picture the craft could beam back to Kerbal. So after this, there's no more data. But we can still enjoy the impact here. That's the point after all. Close this, and it should give us a time to impact here. We are not actually impacting. Good grief. I never made the correction burn. Oh man, we have another failure. Oh well, at least I suppose we can argue that... actually, could we do anything about this right now? We could argue the same thing about this as the last one, but now... Okay, yes, we have no control at all. I can go retro though. This is where in that episode 0 I was discussing whether or not we should have limited probe control, and I'm glad that I decided to do it because a probe after all should have some control. Of course now we only have full throttle or no throttle. Where are we going to end up when we leave? This will not be an orbit that goes outside of Kerbal. We should have control soon. Only 3 liters of monopropellant though. Not enough, not enough. Oh well. No, it's very hard to control now. It has complete difficulty trying to lock to retrograde. And I think we are pretty much done. Let's just find out. I can't actually get towards the retrograde at all, even if I push towards it. Okay, we consider this craft lost. Of course it wasn't, but we lost control of it after transmission was cut off from Kerbal. So yes, that's another failed Ranger 4, which again fits the profile. But at least we got nice pictures out of it. So for the next episode we're going to have a lot more excitement than this, I think. Even though I still really enjoy this. Everything with KSP is enjoyable to me. But we're going to do some more manned or Kerbal launches, I guess we can call them. And for that we're actually going to do a close approach rendezvous. It's of course going to be with the... I think for the sake of it we can use 1 Mercury and 1 Vostok. Just to use the vehicles that we have built already. And we will try to get them, let's say, within 5 kilometers or so from each other. Of course, they don't have fine control on orbit in terms of their RCS, so this will be purely controlled with the boosters. But it should be exciting. And yes, see you then. Thank you for watching, comrades. I hope you're still enjoying this series, and I'm sorry for the sound in the last one. This should not have that problem anymore. So, thank you for watching. Have a fantastic day.